playing in the NFL, at what point did you start to see or realize that this game isn't forever and start to think about what's next?
Day one. You come
That's
into,
rare.
yeah, I mean, you understand that it will come to an end. And you think that 5 years, 10 years, 15 years is a long time, and it is in real life, but in the NFL, by the time you get drafted, you're in year 5,
And
in
you're
a
a
blink of
running
an eye.
back.
Right, so you have dog years as a running back. So I kind of realized that, my first couple of years, I didn't really prepare for the end. I was focused on the beginning, but I always had the end in mind. And I was thinking, like, what am I going to do once the game is done? So my 4th year, at the end of my 5th year, I went back and got my degree in landscape architecture, and I wanted to use my celebrity, my status, and my network to help me develop a business. So I started the Edge Group, a landscape architecture firm 14 years ago. And I wanted to build an enterprise and become an entrepreneur. So I kind of started back then. But I wasn't ready to leave the game in my 9th year. I thought I would play 15 years, 14, somewhere around there, and decide when I was going to leave. Very often you had the choice of making that decision. The game almost makes that decision for you,
yeah.
Unless you're a Peyton Manning or Tom Brady, someone to that nature. I mean, that's the 1% of the 1%
Right.
that can have a chance to do that. But for the most part, I always was looking to expand my horizons, learn, put myself in uncomfortable situations or uncomfortable areas where I was forced to grow, sink or swim, and learn and evolve, because that was the key to the real game. Was after the game of life,
Right.
and how you survive and how you evolve and how you grow and how you maintain a certain lifestyle or a certain way of thinking, and not just rely on your playing days to define who you are and also to bring in a check for you.
Sure.
So I've had to, really spawn out into areas that, first of all, I was passionate about. Second, that I figured that I could be great at. And third, that's going to, bring in some income and
Sure.
go for a lifetime, as long as I live. So that's exactly what I've done. I focus in 3 areas. There's 3 E's, I like to say. It's entrepreneurship, entertainment, and education. And then through those 3 E's, I've kind of recreated my own brand. And that's whether it's acting on stage, in front of the film, in front of the camera, whether it's producing, and then there's the entrepreneurial element where I have my wealth management business, and I got my MBA and so forth, and through education I teach and still learning as a teacher, as a student. So through those 3 areas, that's how I kind of live my life now.
Yeah, you got a lot of cool things going on in the entertainment side too. Got a shoot you're about to go out to soon, and I guess for me, thinking about, okay, you say day one, you get into the NFL, you know that it's going to end. About 5 years in, you do some things, get your degree, start really thinking, you start the Edge Group, and then now you've got these 3 E's. That's a process. It took you a while to get to the point you're at now. So talking about that, when you go play football, things happen fast. The game moves fast, but also you make money fast, you get celebrity fast, if you're a good player like you were. But eventually, that runs out. On the other side, with this, it's almost the opposite. It happens slow, and you got to be patient, but yet you've got to be urgent.
Yes, that's key. Urgency, because you don't want to become complacent. You want to stay proactive, but you have to be patient. As athletes, we work, we see results on the football field immediately. Sometimes in weeks,
or you don't,
a day,
it's over.
Or you don't. But you see when you work on a muscle, you start to grow, you start to see the physics. In life and in business, you work. You're like, where are the results? Where's you don't see it.
Right.
But it's happening, you're getting your experience, but you just don't see it.
Yeah.
And often what happens is guys get discouraged, and they said, damn, it's not working. You know, I focused on this for 2 years, and you know, it just wasn't happening. Well, damn, it's a process.
Yeah.
And man, I take it to your 7th year, but the key is to stay persistent. You've got to stay persistent at all costs. That's the driving force, persistence and faith. So you've got to walk with that, and by that, you've got to have a strong, I believe, a strong faith in God, a strong spiritual will to get you to point A to point B within the next level of your life, because you're not going to see those small victories often. You've got to continue to see that dream in your mind when it's not tangible, when you can't touch it. You got to see it, you got to feel it, you got to think it, you got to breathe it, you got to cry it, you got to do all of that for that specific dream. If not, then you'll fall by the wayside in discouragement, and then you'll hear, you know, just stories you don't want to hear about in the media. So it's a process, it's work, but it's gratifying if you dig in and you do the work.